folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. What in the world is up with these mysterious drones here?
This isn't conspiracy. This isn't craziness. They are not drones.
What are they then? If they're not drones, then what in the world are these things? I mean, when I look at them here, and let's just play some of this video. This is the kind of crazy stuff we're looking at.
They're not moving.
They're in the middle of the
they're
sky.
not acting like drones, and they cannot disperse
All
them
kinds
as
of
if they were
craziness.
drones.
The weird thing for me is that there's no flashing lights in them at all.
At the moment, I think all we can legitimately say is they're objects and they're unexplained.
The frequency of this stuff is increasing now. It's not that our technology gives us the ability to see it. It's definitely increasing.
Well, it is increasing. I don't know what they are. These giant orbs in the sky. So everybody is focused on the drones, right? I believe the drones are our own government. I do think you have some hobbyists now that are now flying their drones because everybody's talking about drones. So it's like this flock to get your drone up in the sky. But I believe these large SUV-style drones are our government, no matter what the military says. They are adamant they're not ours. I just do not believe them. But while we focus on those, do we not need to be focused on the orbs, these plasma-like bulbs in the sky that do some crazy things? And one of the things that I saw, it's hard for me to believe my own eyes, but it's getting some media coverage, is that one of the orbs responded to a person on the ground when they asked, do you know Jesus? Now, look, I love Jesus and I know the power of God, but they're responding and morphing as they're talking about God and her love of Jesus. And the woman shooting the video seems pretty credible. I'm going to play it right off the bat for you. Maybe the drones are investigating the orbs because we're seeing these orbs all across the country now, not just in northern New Jersey and parts of Maryland. So I'm going to play that video for you in just a second. But before I do, folks, I'll tell you what, we now have a situation where the spending is out of control in Washington. We're going to talk about them kicking a can down the road with $100 billion in special interest spending. That is not going away. The dollar is being devalued by our own Congress. This is one of the reasons why precious metals, specifically gold, makes such a good investment. Doge office or not, the spending spree in Washington is not going away anytime soon. We're not getting to a balanced budget anytime soon. Not to mention foreign governments waging war on the dollar and them all buying up gold. Gold is an investment portfolio hedge, okay? It's a hedge against inflation. It's a hedge against chaos. And quite frankly, it's a hedge against government spending. Right now, gold makes a lot of sense. It went up during the Trump years. I assume and expect it will go up now. How much is right of an investment for you? Talk to my friends at Colonial Metals. I trust these guys. I know them personally. I know there are a lot of gold companies out there, but Colonial Metals is the one that I recommend. Colonial Metals Group. freegoldguide.com/grant. freegoldguide.com/grant. Or you can call them at 1-800-458-7356, or just take a picture of the QR code there and go visit their website, freegoldguide.com/grant. You will not regret it. All right. I told you there's this situation with the orb in the sky, Jesus changing shape. Just watch this, okay? I want you to watch it, and I want you to watch it closely.
If I can do this today. Where am I? In between those two trees.
So if this is a scam, she's not going to have all these problems. Now, let me see. This is getting creepy. I'll pause it right here. So the thing with that right there that you're looking at, is it a star she's zooming in on? Because a star could distort like that. Many people said what people are seeing are stars. Betelgeuse is very bright in the sky right now as well. Is that what that is? But it doesn't appear to be steady. Watch this. I mean, that doesn't look like a star.
Zoom in more. I know I can, but my fingers don't work. Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Let's see if we can see that.
So that's a pretty good shot of it. Now,
That's good.
I want you to wait for this moment because she starts talking about God and the orb starts freaking out. Now, again, do I think we're being visited by aliens? Folks, I got a real hard time believing that. Do I think there's other life out there? I absolutely do. When you think about our little Earth, all the stars in not just our universe, but the other universes, the chances of us being the only life form, I think are slim to none. But do I think they're coming and visiting us? No. Can I explain this to you? No. So I'm open to all explanations if you have them.
Cool. Can you talk to me?
Here we go.
Can you hear me? Jesus loves me. Oh, you know Jesus.
No. No.
You know Jesus. Jesus is awesome, isn't he? Yes, he is. God is good. God is good. God is good.
What is going on? What do you make of that? God is good and the orb starts freaking out. Now, again, if it's a distorted star, it would remain steadily distorted. It doesn't. Do you know Jesus? And the star starts wigging out. I mean, this is eye-popping to me.
Oh, you know Jesus. You know Jesus. Jesus is awesome, isn't he? Yes, he is.
All right, so let's go through some of the things that people have seen with these orbs. They see them dart across the sky in a very strange, unbelievable fashion. They go at speeds that are unexplainable, and then they stop on a dime. Some people have witnessed orbs that are releasing some kind of trail, whether it's a chemtrail or vapor mist or whatever it might be, but it's unexplainable. And again, we're all focused on the drones. And I think there's something to the drones. I think there's something to these orbs. Maybe we need to be focused on all of it, right? I mean, here's this guy. That I'm wondering what it is. Then there's this. This is outside the window of an airplane. Those look like orbs to me. Unexplainable. Are they planes? They definitely do not look like planes. I really don't believe that to be true. So we see all of these different types of orbs, and nothing seems to make a lot of sense to me. It really doesn't. Here's somebody explaining some of them.
Stop calling them drones. Let me be very clear. This isn't conspiracy. This isn't craziness. They are not drones.
Look at it. Look at it. Look at it on the camera. It's like a dome. That's a UFO.
They're not moving like drones. They're not acting like drones, and they cannot disperse them as if they were drones.
The weird thing for me is that there's no flashing lights in the bit at all.
At the moment, I think all we can legitimately say is they're objects and they're unexplained.
The frequency of this stuff is increasing now. It's not that our technology gives us the ability to see it. It's definitely increasing.
I wish I had the Close Encounters of the Third Kind music. Bing, 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 bing. I don't know what these orbs are. They don't make a lot of sense to me. I'd love some answers. We're not getting answers. This was a Pentagon briefing yesterday. Again, they're focused on the drones. Remember, they're telling us these are hobbyists. They're being increased because of the reporting on it, and it's humans that are responsible. We're told it's not a foreign entity, but they don't know what they are, but there's still no danger to all of us. These are all things they're saying. I don't know many hobbyists that fly drones that are the size of SUVs. And if they're hobbyists, why are you giving Congress classified briefings?
Why does it have to be a classified briefing if these are just hobbyist drones, they're not military drones? Why is it a classified briefing on the Capitol Hill?
I'd have to refer you to Congress on that. Again, sharing as much information as we can here. I don't have the briefing in front of me, so I can't tell you specifically, what aspects are classified or not. I can assure you, though, that, again, we are sharing as much information as we can.
All right. So it turns out that people like me and others are getting more information or giving more information than they are. So we know that in 2019 in California saw large groups of drones. They were surveilling Naval and Coast Guard ships, okay? This is about 5 years ago. The Joint Chiefs, the commander of the Pacific Fleet, the FBI, all investigated with no answers to the public about what they were. Now, in 2021 into 2022, it came out, thanks to some reporting by some military reporters, that those drones that were going after our Navy and Coast Guard ships were originating from the MV Bass Strait, which is a Hong Kong bulk carrier, a cargo ship that is under the Hong Kong flag. Now, that we know would be controlled by China going back 5 years ago. So this also matches up to what I've been told, that China uses cargo ships as naval surveillance vehicles and ships. So they're disguised as a cargo ship, but really inside is weaponry, surveillance equipment, all kinds of things to make it look like a cargo ship, but it's really more nefarious than that. Now, this isn't the only time we've seen drones. In 2020, there were large swarms of drones seen in Colorado and Nebraska. Now, these large drone swarms in Colorado and Nebraska were directly over the Minuteman III nuclear weapon sites, the missile silos in both Nebraska and Colorado. The federal government never ID'd whose those drones were, who was responsible for them, or where they were coming from. So now we're starting to see a pattern here that this is par for the course. The government doesn't want to talk about these things, which makes me think they're even more nefarious than originally speculated on. I do believe they're there for surveillance purposes, but if they're there to surveil, it also means they're probably capable of attacking. To me, if our government really doesn't know what they are, we're taking them at their word, then our government is more inept than ever. And I think Americans need to be scared, not because of what they're searching for, but Americans need to be scared because our government is inept. Our military is inept. Certainly leadership and top brass. Now, over the past few weeks, we've had over 5,000 reports of these strange drones with orbs thrown in on that. 5,000 reports. We do know a Chinese national was arrested at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. Now, these orbs are very close. Orbs and drones are very close to Air Force bases, military bases. They're close to airports. They even got close, I'm told, to Air Force One. That, folks, is a real problem if these drones are getting that close to the president's plane. Frightening stuff. Well, we will continue to follow it. That I promise you. All right. Listen to me. Get21now.com. This is about Bitcoin mining. I want you to think about this. We now have Bitcoin up over $106,000. The money is in the mining. If you don't like the wild swings of Bitcoin and you want to lock into a guaranteed rate, go to get21now.com. That's get21now.com. That's what they'll do for you. They'll lock you in to 21% annualized interest on your money. And you, I promise you, are going to be so happy as this stuff is literally direct deposited into your bank account. So some of the other things that why I would tell you that this makes such a great investment is that the Trump administration is going to be a huge friend of Bitcoin. There's no doubt about that. The government may want to create a U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve. If you're in mining it, the price is only going to go up. Guaranteed on your money, 21%. The Trump administration is going to be a regulatory friend of Bitcoin. There's no doubt about that. And I can tell you, Bitcoin has surged over 50% since November 5th. Again, get21now.com. Get in on this. Don't deal with the wild fluctuations, up to 21% annualized interest paid back to your account every month. Mailbox money, baby. It's great stuff. And call them back. When they call you and they leave a message, either call them back or answer the phone. I promise you, they're very busy, but you're going to want to talk to them. All right. Next topic on the hit parade, folks, is what's going on in Washington. We now have exposed again the swamp for what it is. And it's no coincidence that this budget battle, they want to extend spending, but not just spending, they want to increase it through March. Why are we increasing spending? Why don't we just have a straight up or down vote to continue spending at the current levels? As angry as that makes me, as much as I want to cut spending, I understand that battle's not going to happen. I would think you could get everyone to agree. No new spending. We will continue this until January 30th, February 15th. They have it out to March. We can argue if that's too long or not too long. That's the least of our problems. I understand the new Congress has to get settled and start negotiating this, but the bottom line is they wait till the last week anyway. So does it really matter how long Congress is in session? If they wait till the last week, make the last week be the first week they're in session. Make it January 30th. They've got to come up with a new budget. A new budget. Instead, by some accounts, we've got $100 billion in new spending. $10 billion going to farm aid relief. New farm aid relief, not old. We've got spending for relief for the hurricane victims and the wildfire victims, but that money should have been there. We never should have been overspent on that, but because of the migrant crisis that Biden created, we had to overspend there. There's a land swap involved in this bill, so Washington, D.C. can get the land necessary to build a stadium for the Washington Commanders, or Redskins, as I like to still call them. Why is this in this bill? You know what? I'm sorry, Washington, D.C., you're going to have to wait. We're not going to negotiate a land swap deal as we're literally trying to fund the government. Well, again, no coincidence that this is coming up on Christmas time. Here's Nancy Mace spelling it out.
Be Groundhog Day, same type of bill, a continuing resolution that doesn't actually cut spending. This is what DC does. They manufacture a crisis, no government shutdown. They manufacture this crisis to get as much stuff into this bill. We call it a Christmas tree bill because everybody gets something and then more, and you get stuck with the tab, and makes things so much more less affordable for you, the American people.
So she is right that it makes it less affordable for all of you. You know what? I was going to play this a little bit later in here, but Milton Friedman, who I love Milton Friedman. I really do. He's the great economist, free market thinker. He's probably the greatest mind when it comes to free markets and what they really mean that's out there. He summed it up this way. All right.
Keep your eye on one thing and one thing only, how much government is spending, because that's the true tax. Every budget is balanced. There is no such thing as an unbalanced federal budget. You're paying for it. If you're not paying for it through it in the form of explicit taxes, you're paying for it indirectly in the form of inflation or in the form of borrowing. The thing you should keep your eye on is what government spends. And the real problem is to hold down government spending as a fraction of our income. And if you do that, you can stop worrying about the debt.
Hold down government spending. You can stop worrying about the debt. Well, we're not even close to it. We've got a, quote, CR, which turns out to be what I would call an omnibus package, which is everybody throws everything in there, and then they rush to try to get that passed. It's literally the last thing that you want to be doing. And I'm trying to get something up here so I can look at where is this? So I'm going to get the next gentleman who is speaking here. And let me play him. Here we go. So this is Republican Congressman on with Real America's Voice, spelling out the situation.
This is by design. This is what they do every time. They wait until the last possible minute. They don't share what they're doing with the other members of Congress. Look, we've got four people that are deciding where all the dollars are spent. And it's by design. They like that. They like having all that power and control consolidated to the four corners. And it's something that has to change. And the Freedom Caucus, we have been fighting for this to force some level of change so that we don't continue to do this sham of a budgeting gimmick and process every year. And we've got some structural things in place, but I think we're moving the ball in the right direction. But again, this year is another frustrating failure of this Congress to have any fiscal responsibility whatsoever.
So that's Eric Burleson, Republican congressman, Freedom Caucus member, who started to become more and more outspoken about this. I haven't seen much of this guy, but I like the way he thinks right now. We need more people like that in Washington. Now, the question becomes, why December 20th? Today's the 18th. Tomorrow, we know, is Thursday. Friday is the big day on all of this, as if they're going to be able to read 1,500 pages of this bill. That's by design, too, folks. They make it so long that they try to sneak the stuff in on members of Congress. Now, why is it coming up on December 20th? Well, Congressman Massey predicted this Christmas omnibus back in September. He predicted it.
I also predicted this would fall right before Christmas, and I believe this does fall on December 20th. Now, why have we picked December 20th? Because it's the same reason we always have December 20th. Everybody up here is human. There are no AIs or robots in Congress. And when you get to December 20th, you're 5 days from Christmas. You're 4 days from Christmas Eve. And you desperately want to be there with your family. So this is when the leadership here has the maximum influence. And again, I'm talking to the Democrats and the Republicans, because you've seen it on the Democrat side of the aisle. They love to pick the week before Christmas for this showdown because you can smell the jet fuel fumes over at DCA. It smells like Christmas, that you're going to get to go home and open presents. I've been in HC5 when literally the Speaker of the House, not the Speaker we have now, walks in and says, if you vote for this, you can go home and unwrap presents with your kids. And if you don't vote for this, you're going to spend Christmas here with Nancy Pelosi. And then the chant starts, vote, 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 vote. Literally, people get enthusiastic to vote for something that they haven't read. So let me predict what we're not going to do on December 20th before I take a guess at what we're going to do. What we're not going to do, we're not going to do 12 separate bills. We are not going to spend this time. We've got a few months between now and December 20th. We could go back to working on appropriations bills. We are not going to do this.
Guess what? They didn't do that. Those 12 separate bills is called the normal rule of order. That's how Washington is supposed to operate. You've got 12 appropriations bills. You fund the government that way. And quite frankly, it's the way Washington should work. This hasn't been done in decades. They throw everything together. They patchwork and piecemeal stuff. They kick the can down the road, and it allows these members of Congress to spend. Because let me make this clear. The power of a congressman doesn't come from his vote. What it comes from is his ability to approve the money spent. So in some respects, that comes back down to his vote. But my point is, it's not because he's a member of Congress that makes him powerful, because he can do things on his own. No, What makes a member of Congress powerful is the ability to be part of a machine that approves the massive spending. And when you're part of the machine that approve the massive spending, you'll be rewarded by the industries that are taking much of those taxpayer dollars. Defense industry, agriculture, these types of things. They're going to reward you and reward you handsomely.
This sucker, whatever happens on December 20th, whether it's another CR to punt, to kick the can down the road for 3 more months, or whether it's an omnibus that funds all of government with one bill, it's going to be written behind closed doors. And every lobbyist in this town is going to try to attach their little thing to this bill.
So that's exactly what's happened. Look, not only is this going back to September, 3 months ago, he's predicting when the date would be. He got it right. He's predicting 3 months down the road, we'll create an omnibus, which is supposed to be a continuing resolution. I mean, we'll make a resolution to continue spending as is. That didn't happen. Why can't we have a simple bill, no strings attached? That simple. I would think you could even get Democrats to agree with that. Hey, listen, we've got a new Congress coming in. We've got a new president coming in. We're going to continue spending as is, which means you get your Nancy Pelosi pet projects and all of the Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer programs for another couple months until the new Congress comes in. But you don't get more. You don't get billions upon billions of dollars more than we're spending. But yet, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, this is exactly what he's doing.
This train is leaving the station on December 20th. It's the only one that we know is going to pass. They call it up here must pass legislation. So everybody's going to try and get their little thing on this bill, whatever it is on December 20th, whether it's another continuing resolution or another omnibus. It's not even really a prediction that I'm making. I'm just telling you what has happened for 12 years, regardless of whether Democrats are in charge or Republicans are in charge.
You know what the truth is? You don't need to be freaking Nostradamus to figure it out. I mean, I could have told you the same thing's happening. Now, what is amazing about him is he gives you the date. He gives you how long it's going to. I mean, he nails it. But I could have told you every lobbyist in town is going to be up there trying to attach whatever they want to it. These lobbyists, man, this is why they get paid big money, because they make their industry big money when all the money starts flowing. Farmer bailouts. What, Archer Daniel Midland needs a bailout? Don't forget, folks, the big pharma, big pharma, right? That's a different pharma. The farming community in America today is mostly controlled by Fortune 500 companies. It's not mom and pops. Now, I feel for mom and pops, but that's not where we're getting our food supply. And I don't think we need to be bailing out these big companies. Should I play a little more of Massey? Why not?
There may be a little twist. We may do half of a CR. It'll be a whole CR, and half of it will end in February, and half of it will end in April, and they'll convince you they got something more clever this year than they had last year. But it's going to be the same old thing, warmed over, written behind closed doors, rolled out here. We're not going to have time to read this thing. That's also predictable. And we're going to be told, vote for this and you can go home and open presents with your kids. Don't vote for it and you're going to be stuck here. And there will be people, it pulls at heartstrings. We are humans. And that's why I think it's really disingenuous or despicable, really, to pick 4 days before Christmas Eve to put this bill on the floor. The bill I'm talking about, obviously, nobody here knows what it is yet.
They didn't know what it is 3 months before. Today is the 18th of December, and they don't know what it is. It's 1,500 pages long. They got it last night. Who here can read 1,500 pages overnight? Nobody. So they are human. So what I've just learned from this is that Speaker Mike Johnson, who's supposed to be a big religious guy, just used Jesus to hold hostage the United States Congress. That's a real Christian thing to do. Use God, use Jesus, use Christmas, hold Congress hostage, twist their arms, threaten them. You can't go see your kids unless you vote for this. Wait, that sounds familiar. That sounds like a terrorist who puts a who puts a bag over your head and says, talk. You'll never see your kids again unless you talk. This is what Johnson and Schumer just did to members of Congress. You'll never see your kids on Christmas unless you start voting. Now vote, you no good crumb bum. Son of a bum. It's what they're doing. It really is. So I'm going to play some more of these folks here in Congress, including Marjorie Taylor Greene and Chip Roy, who's got some choice words for all of this. But before I do that, let me tell you about my friends over at Energized Health. I want you to go to energizedhealth.com. I feel like I'm in the greatest shape of my life. This is about intercellular hydration. If you don't know what that is, visit the website, energizedhealth.com/Grant. I lost 15 pounds in less than 2 weeks on this program, and I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. I just changed a few things around. The science behind this program is life transforming. And I don't say that lightly. I say that with my body being proof. Okay. Energizedhealth.com/Grant. They've got coaching. They've got weekly Zoom calls. They've got morning videos. They've got guidebooks. They've got weekly Zoom calls. They've got so much help that you can't fail. And in fact, they've got a 100% money back guarantee. If you're not happy, they'll give you your money back. And I wouldn't work with a company if they didn't have that guarantee in place. Energizedhealth.com/Grant. Do what I did and say enough is enough. Now, I understand we got a few days left of the holidays. So here's what I want you to do. Get with energizedhealth.com/Grant and say, you know what? On January 2nd, I'm starting and I'm turning my life around. I know I've been talking about it. I know I've been hemming and hawing, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to turn it around. Start it on January 2nd, and they'll get you set up to do it. Energizedhealth.com/Grant. Go there today and live a longer, healthier life, man. That's really what it's about, and you will too. All right. As we continue here, this is Marjorie Taylor Greene explaining her views on all of this.
Well, it's really turning into, it's not a CR, which is a continuation of the budget. It's turning into an omnibus, is what it sounds like to me, where they're packing in, everybody's packing in what they want here and there, and using the pressure and the situation of the government shutdown. Of course, tragically, farmers are being dangled. Americans that suffered through natural disasters, they're being dangled with disaster relief.
You see, she makes such a good point here. I just talked about the farmers and the victims of these storms and fires. Why does Congress use them as pawns? If you don't pass this, we won't help victims. If you don't pass this, we won't help the farmers. If you don't pass this, our military. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody's a pawn in their scheme to make their friends rich. How about we operate government in an efficient, normal manner, and then we won't have to use these people as pawns? We get back to the idea of a limited government that's there for some specific functions, including disaster relief, okay? I believe that falls into national security. If we were just focused on disaster relief and not paying for illegal aliens to live in hotels, fancy ones at that, we'd have plenty of money for American citizens. Or what about foreign aid? We send so much money overseas to other countries. Let's focus on our own country. Let's get back to the basics here a little bit. But no, can't do that.
And I think that's incredibly unfair. And you know, think about it like this: if this is going to turn into a 3-month omnibus, basically, then why aren't we doing the heavy lifting on the upcoming debt ceiling situations that we have to deal with in March, government funding? But no, and we don't have any bill text. I have no idea what's in the CR except just basic things that we were told in there. And then reading often you guys' X accounts because somehow y'all magically know things oftentimes more quicker than I do. But reality is there is no CR text out yet. We don't know what's in it. And here we are. What is today? Tuesday? Yeah. Okay. So that's it.
What is the mood of the conference? I mean, obviously you have been critical of Speaker Johnson in the past, but you seem to have, given him a little bit Grace years and somebody else was running against him. What are your sort of thoughts on how he's handled the situation?
Well, I haven't been in any of the conversations on building the CR out, so I haven't been involved in that process. So I can't criticize not being in the room. I mean, that's fair. But here we are today on Tuesday. We haven't seen any bill text. We're supposed to fly out on Thursday. We've had a long time to deal with it. So it's the same, basically same pattern of behavior.
Well, she got the bill text last night. And again, it was 1,500 pages long. I was told originally it was going to be 600 pages, which I thought was crazy enough. Now it's 1,500 pages. So that shows you alone that whatever they're putting in this bill more than doubled. $100 billion worth of frivolous spending that is in here. Going to some of the comments on the Rumble channel. Craig Muttley, Illegal Immigration Industrial Complex, NGO Industrial Complex. They're all the industrial complex. Mike Johnson is a traitor. Yeah, sadly, I know Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, has a very difficult job with such a thin margin to deal with. You've got to really navigate things in a manner that makes it almost impossible to be a successful speaker. But you don't have to do stupid things either. And one of the last comments that we heard was 4 people decide how this is going to go down. You have Chuck Schumer. You got Speaker Mike Johnson. I'm sure you've got the White House involved in this, and that's it, right? So Nancy Pelosi, she has her nose in all of this too, I'm sure. But as you notice, someone who doesn't is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She hasn't been consulted on this. That isn't right, is it, Chip Roy?
And the conference needs to decide.
Well, hold on a second. This audio is way too low here. Let me see if I can get this up.
And bend the curve. But we just voted on a $200 billion, and the conference needs to decide whether we're actually serious about spending. And they talk about, well, we got to do mandatory spending reform and bend the curve. But we just voted on a $200 billion shift of dollars in Social Security that's going to shorten the time when Social Security expires or goes bankrupt. We're just fundamentally unserious about spending. And as long as you got a blank check, you can't shrink government. If you can't shrink government, you can't live free.
Do you plan on supporting the Speaker in January?
If you can't shrink government, you can't live free. Is there a better comment than that? I actually don't think there is. I'm with him. If you can't shrink government, you can't live free. And that is very, very true when it comes to that. I talked about foreign aid. I want to play a clip from you from a billionaire who donates a lot of money to other countries, impoverished nations, and he blows the lid on a secret about foreign aid. Before I play that, though, folks, let me tell you about my friends over at consumeradvocatesUSAnow.com/Grant, by the way. So CAUSAnow.com is a buyer's club that is committed to American-made products only. This is a family-owned company that makes all the products. Anything you need for your house, for your well-being, you can get at CAUSAnow.com. Forget about Amazon now, okay? Forget about China. Forget about Walmart. Forget about the big box stores. You can get your floor cleaner, your toothpaste, your deodorant, your dishwashing super, your dish detergent. You can get window cleaner. You can get household supplies, you name it, coffee, meat, hormone-free meat as well, protein bars, all these dry goods, CAUSAnow.com/Grant can provide you at a very low price, delivered straight to your door. And again, it's a buyer's club for Americans about taking market share away from China, pushing back against the big box stores, and being part of a parallel economy. If you want to be part of the solution, start buying from these guys. They're great. CAUSAnow.com/Grant. This is about doing your part in making sure we make America head in the right direction. CAUSAnow.com/Grant. Just go to the website and peruse it. I promise you, you won't be disappointed with that either. Okay, this is, what's his name? Dan Pena, I believe this guy's name is. He talks about foreign aid and how much actually makes it to the people in need.
We could solve poverty in the entire world with the stroke of a pen. And you know why they don't do that in Africa, Ethiopia, wherever? Because of corruption. None of the money's almost none of the money's going to get down to where it belongs. They have a deal called the CAP 28's coming up, where the wealthy countries get together and say how they're going to spend money for the poor countries. This is CAP 28. Every year they pledge between 100 and 500 million. You know how much money's been given? Zero. And it's because of the C word, corruption. But nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. Everybody knows it, but nobody talks about it. And we've been in Haiti, we've been all kinds of places. At the end of the day, it all comes down to the money getting stolen. How much money can you get to the actual needed recipient? And in most cases, it's almost nothing.
No money getting to the recipient. And yet we're worried about a budget fight right now coming up in Washington. It's ongoing right now. And all that foreign aid that we push out the door that has us at our trillions of dollars of debt, it's not getting to the people it's intended for because of corruption. So if that's the case, then why don't we just shut it down? Cov69 writes, Wyoming's constitution mandates a balanced budget. They have a huge surplus. How did the USA turn away from common sense? It's a great sense, Cov. They turned away from common sense because once everyone goes to Washington, they quickly come down with something called Potomac fever. Potomac fever is very dangerous. It makes you spend like a drunken sailor. It makes you power hungry. It makes you drunk on power. And once Potomac fever sets in, it's very hard to cure. And so most of our lawmakers in Washington have Potomac fever, and they forgot about the Constitution. That's another side effect of Potomac fever. Is memory loss. Memory loss about what the Constitution really is. And I wish ivermectin worked for our friends with Potomac fever. Sadly, I don't think it does. Not much works to cure Potomac fever other than voting the people with it out of office. Then they usually become lobbyists and then do more damage as they try to zombieize the other new members of Congress to come down with Potomac fever as well. It really is true. Listen.
So what are your thoughts on this here? Have you seen the text at all?
It's a total dumpster fire. I think it's garbage. This is what Washington, D.C. has done. This is why I ran for Congress, to try to stop this. And sadly, this is happening again. I think that it's shameful that people that celebrate Doge coming in, and yet we're going to vote for another $1 billion to be added to the deficit. And so it's ironic.
What does this mean for Speaker Johnson's future?
All right, so it is true that you got people who love the idea of Doge. Oh, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to cut the size of government, and they're going to make everybody return to work, and it's going to be so great, yada, yada, yada. And yet they're voting to kick the can down the road and vote for $100 billion more in spending. What else can I say on this one? There was some interesting fireworks in Washington that had nothing to do with the budget. It had to do with transgender athletes playing in women's sports at a collegiate level. The head of the NCAA was on the hot seat, and two members of that committee really put the screws to him, Senator John Kennedy and Senator Josh Hawley. First off, this is Senator Kennedy talking about the ridiculousness, the hypocrisy of allowing men in women's sports. These are, quote, transgender women, but we know they're not women because they're biological males, playing in women's sports. San Jose State, you've got a woman and a whole team, 10 of them, that have a transgender person on their team. Teams that are playing this team are forfeiting. So now you've got teams being forced to forfeit. You've got the team where the transgender is playing not getting to play. How is that protecting women's sports? How is that fair to anybody? It's not.
The NCAA exists in part to promote fair competition in collegiate sports, does it not? Could you speak in the mic for me?
Yes.
Okay. A transgender woman is a biological male. Is that correct?
Yes.
And a biological male is always going to have a physical and a physiological advantage competing in a collegiate sport against a biological female. Isn't that true?
There's not a lot of research on it, but it's certainly debatable.
You think it's debatable?
I think it's debatable.
Wait, you don't think?
I mean,
think that a biological male has an advantage every time competing against a biological female? Is that your testimony?
No, I think defined the way you defined it, yes, I would agree with you.
So you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay. So why does the NCAA, why do you, your job is to promote fairness in collegiate sports. Why do you support allowing transgender women who are biological males to compete against non-transgender biological females?
Over the course of the past 2 years, 5 federal court cases involving this question. Let me finish. 5 federal judges have all sided with participation as the standard. This is a very...
So you're saying you don't have a choice?
I'm saying that under the current dynamic, there is not clarity on this issue legally.
Well, why don't you exhibit leadership and demonstrate leadership and provide clarity? If you agree with me,
well, first of all,
that the purpose of the NCAA is to promote fair competition, and if you agree with me that in every single instance, a biological male is going to have an unfair advantage over a biological female, then why don't you just say, look, in America you can be whomever you want to be, but in terms of fair competition in a collegiate sport, transgender women who are biological males are not going to be allowed to compete against non-transgender women who are biological female. Boom, done. Why don't you go to Amazon and buy a spine online and take a stand?
They don't want to take a stand because they're afraid. They're cowards. Senator Kennedy is correct that they lack the spine to do what's right because the woke mob will come after them. And think about this on college campuses. Think about the woke mob there that literally will burn the campus down. But that still isn't a reason to do something that is fundamentally wrong, and that is allowing men to play against women. What person with common sense thinks this is a good idea? They're spiking the ball in volleyball at a level of 80 miles an hour. Women are getting hurt when they're getting hit by these men who are spiking the ball on them. So that's how Senator Kennedy goes about talking to this leader of the NCAA, Charlie Baker. Josh Hawley takes a different approach. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Baker, if I could just start with you. I confess I didn't understand your answer to Senator Kennedy's question about the safety of women in the sports of the NCAA overseas. Did you say the federal law requires the NCAA to permit biological men to play in women's sports?
No, I said there have been 5 cases in federal court in the past 18 months. And
okay, because I thought you told him that
federal judges sided with participation.
The reason the NCAA couldn't take a position on this, in fact, you have taken a position on it, you're affirmatively permitting biological men in women's sports. But you said to him it's because of federal law. There's no federal law that requires it, right? The relevant federal law is Title IX, is it not? You're familiar with Title IX.
If guidance on this issue from Title IX or guidance with respect to discrimination law would be
Title IX is already the law.
So you see what Charlie Baker's asking for is we want Congress to act. We want guidance from Congress of what the real law is. Well, I can tell you what Title IX is. Title IX is an equal right for women and men, but for women to have an equal opportunity in sports. You're not getting an equal opportunity in sports if you got men competing on the team. In fact, you're taking away opportunity. It is the opposite of Title IX's intentions.
Line says,
federal judges have ruled on
20 U.S.C. Section 1681A. By the way, let's just dispense with that canard. No federal court has ordered the NCAA to include biological men in women's sports, right?
Actually,
there's not a single case that has ordered the NCAA to do so, correct?
That's pretty much what they decided in the San
No, don't
Jose
say pretty
case.
much. We're talking about the law here.
Yes,
and
I know.
And you actively dissembled to Senator Kennedy just a second ago. It's not true that the NCAA has been ordered by any court, number one. It's not true that federal law requires you to include biological males. In fact, Title IX explicitly says no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be denied the benefits of any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. You are in court at this moment arguing that Title IX doesn't apply to the NCAA, which is astounding to me, given the amount of money, federal money, the NCAA gets. But let me just ask you this.
Senator,
a total of 5 teams, 5 women's volleyball teams, Wyoming, Southern Utah, Utah State, Nevada, and Boise State all had to forfeit 7 games in their conference play, NCAA conference play this past year, women's teams, because a biological male, under your rules, was playing on a rival's team. How is that not denying them the benefits of the sport? Why is this fair to women?
And when that issue went to federal court, the judge sided with participation.
No, the NCAA did not go to court.
No,
that is
when
not true.
The federal judge made the decision with respect to the issue you just raised.
Your rules have not been tried in federal court. And your rules explicitly permit biological males in women's sports. And I am asking you, why is that fair to the women? All of these women on these teams had to forfeit games and therefore a chance to compete in the championship because of your rules. And I want to know, why is that protective of women? That's my question.
So far, the federal government on the court side has issued decisions several times.
I'm not asking you about the
year.
courts. I know what the courts have done.
Look at his body language, by the way. What a cocky mother scratcher. I mean, he with the hand on his head, just like, so I'm so relaxed. I don't care what you're saying. Listen to me. You have women that are getting hurt because of your decision. You have women that are getting bumped out of competitions because of your decision to allow men to compete in sports. To me, it's absolutely crazy. Well, one of those women who's totally upset about this is this woman who plays for San Jose State. 10 of them sued the college and the NCAA over allowing this transgender to play on their team, where teams are forfeiting when they go up against. So now this poor woman can't play. She went on Fox News with Riley Gaines, who's a great swimmer who started exposing all of this.
You've also said that some of their spikes traveled at 80 miles an hour during practice. And now we've since learned that the assistant coach was suspended for speaking up really for your concerns. What impact has that news had across the team?
I mean, I think you can imagine she was that one person that everyone felt like they could voice their opinion and truly speak how they felt with the whole situation. And
you see what happened? They fired the assistant coach who said enough is enough. This isn't right.
Feel comforted, and them taking that away from us, everyone felt distraught, and especially finding out minutes before a game, it was just a horrible situation.
It is a horrible situation, which is why it's so despicable what the leader of the NCAA is doing. I mean, he has no answers for why you're discriminating against women, why you're ruining women's sports, why you're allowing men to compete. I do believe there's a sexual nature to all of this, allowing men in women's bathrooms, men in women's locker rooms, allowing them to shower with the women. Here's Riley Gaines had Nancy Mace on, who, is trying to keep men out of women's bathrooms in the United States Capitol.
Some of it's pedophilia cloaked in the ideology of being progressive. And I remember, when I really saw this was about a year and a half ago. My youngest had turned 14, and I said, you have 1 hour and $100 in downtown Charleston, which doesn't get you anything. Get you a pair of socks, right? Very expensive. I was like, good luck. And so we went to a store called Eerie, A-E-R-I-E, one of the girls that lots of tweens and teen girls love to shop at. And we were there, and the man that was putting my daughter in her dressing room, my underage daughter, for her to change clothes, was a man in a mini skirt and a lace bralette. And I about lost my mind. And my daughter did an about face. We got out of there because she knew I was about to lose my shit. And, to see this kind of thing, it's disgusting. It's sexual. I'm learning all about how men that like to cross-dress, men that think they're women, there's a sexual fantasy component to dressing up that they get off on. The testimony in the Supreme Court yesterday, these young girls, underage girls, talking about men in the locker room that are fully naked with their junk out. And it's disgusting and it's repulsive. It's regressive. And women have only had the right to vote for just over 100 years.
It's unbelievable. So it continues. I mean, if you want to see, I'll play a little more of this here before I do, though, folks. Let me tell you about my friends over at Patriot Mobile. Then I'll play you some more of Josh Hawley. I have a Patriot Mobile phone. I use 2 different lines from 2 different networks on this phone, thanks to Patriot Mobile. It's called the Patriot One plan. 1 phone, 2 lines. It's great. But best of all, I know every time I pay my bill, every time I make a call, I know that some of my money is going to help push conservative causes in the right direction. Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They want to ensure that America remains free, and they fight for that. Why would I be with these other companies that literally engage in diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, that engage and push and even fund woke ideology? You shouldn't be with these cell phone companies. Patriot Mobile is the choice. Switching is so easy. 100% U.S.-based customer service. You just call them up. I promise you, you call them right now, 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT. They will answer the phone promptly, and you will get help promptly. It's like no other company I've seen before when it comes to their customer service. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. They're Texas-based, by the way, too, which I love. Free month's service. If you sign up today, just use the promo code GRANT for that. PatriotMobile.com. Make the switch. Don't wait any longer. All right, Josh Hawley continued grilling the president of the NCAA.
One of them has ordered the NCAA.
Of federal law.
This is your policy, which you will not defend because, frankly, it's indefensible. Why are you, Mr. Baker, why are you allowing biological men to play in women's sports?
Because we believe that's consistent with federal policy.
So we're right back to your testimony is you believe you're compelled to do it by federal law. You would change it otherwise?
We believe our policy. I said in my opening comments to Senator Kennedy, the clarity on this issue at the federal level would be very helpful.
Oh, that is such a cop-out. In other words, somebody else please do it for us. Keep sending us the money. We'll go to court and argue that Title IX doesn't even apply to us.
We do not take a dime in federal money, not a dime.
Is that why you're arguing Title IX doesn't apply to you?
Yes, part of it, yes.
You honestly think you shouldn't be subject to Title IX?
We don't believe we currently are. Federal court has
amazing.
Federal court has affirmed
absolutely
that
amazing. You have a pending lawsuit right now from female athletes who are suing you because you allow biological men not only in their sports but also in their locker rooms. Why do you do that, by the way? Why do your guidelines allow biological men into women's locker rooms without the women's consent? Without the women's foreknowledge? Why do you do that?
That's not what our guidelines say.
They do say that. I've got them right here. Your guidelines say that transgender student athletes should be able to use the locker room, shower, and toilet facilities in accordance with their gender identity. And here they are, right here.
And then everybody else should have an opportunity to use other facilities if they wish to do so.
Okay, so the burden's on the women. So if the women then want to move to a different facility, in other words, if they want to abandon their own locker room, you're saying that they should have to do that? So in other words, it's their problem?
No, we put a significant amount of emphasis on what the locals' plans are, and we make sure that everybody.
What does that mean, the locals' plans?
Whoever it is that's hosting the event.
You have guidelines that instruct them what the best practices are, and your guidelines say that biological men can go in and use the women's locker rooms if they want to. What the women want has nothing to do with it. They're not mentioned in here at all, correct? Correct. It's right here. You just reaffirmed them in May of this year. I've got them. I'm reading them. I've got them off your website.
I believe our guidelines give people optionality with respect to how they choose to use their facilities. And many,
what does that mean? Optionality. What it says is transgender student athletes will be able to use the locker room, shower, and toilet in accordance with their gender identity. That means men will be able to use the women's locker rooms. And as Riley Gaines and others have testified before this committee, that means if a man, a biological man, wants to use their locker room, They just have to accept it. Or else the women have to go somewhere else. They've got to go find an alternative. Why is that fair?
We told the local folks who've hosted our tournaments they need to create accommodations for the people who are playing.
So it's the feds on the one hand, it's the locals on the other hand. The only person who doesn't seem to bear any responsibility in this is you and the NCAA, who are the governing body. And your testimony here today is you're not even subject to Title IX. Mr. Baker, I can't tell you how disappointed this makes me, but not just disappointed, frankly, infuriated for the student athletes who are suffering because of your policies, and you won't even defend them. You won't even take responsibility. It's outrageous. It's totally outrageous.
Expired.
Well,
Senator Welch?
It most certainly is outrageous. It most certainly makes no sense. It most certainly is a huge and utter problem. And it's all going to change when President Trump gets back into office and we take over the House and the Senate, because Congress does need to pass laws. If the NCAA says we need to clarify it for them, then you know what? Dadgammit, as my buddy Tim Burchett loves to say, the congressman from Tennessee, then dadgammit, we gotta make it clear to them. And so make it clear. Pass a law outlawing men in women's sports. It's that simple. Merry Christmas, everybody. Can you believe Christmas is almost here, by the way? Right around the corner. All right, folks, that is going to do it for us today. I appreciate all of you coming on the program and watching and being here with me. It is a great pleasure having you along and a great honor. Real America's Voice show tonight, we're going to continue to cover this budget battle. This is crazy. It's getting out of control. Something needs to happen in Washington. We'll get some real lawmakers on tonight to talk about what we need to do to make this happen. All right, I'm Grant Stinchfield. Thank you so much for watching Stinchfield's Army Rolls. We'll see you tonight on the Real America's Voice show.